Welcome to the Trump Breaking News Network, your daily source for up-to-the-minute Trump news. Join us today and every day. Here's today's news.
This is TBNN.
Democrats, stop with the poll rigging. It's getting embarrassing. By Tyler Durden. Last fall, in the months, weeks leading up to the presidential election, we spent a fair amount of time talking about how Democratic pollsters were setting themselves up for a massive embarrassment on Election Day with their obviously rigged polling data that consistently suggested Hillary had a commanding lead. In fact, just weeks before the election, The Washington Post published a poll showing that Hillary was well on her way to a blowout 12-point victory. We wrote about it here. This is how WaPo's latest poll gave Hillary a 12-point advantage over Trump. Needless to say, that never happened, and those pollsters suffered the humiliating consequences of their biased math. Unfortunately, as last night's special election in Georgia makes all too clear, no one on the left seems to have learned any lessons from their presidential poll rigging debacle last November. In fact, one prominent pollster even declared just 6 days before the election that if Ossoff failed to win, it would mean that math is dead and data is broken. Of course, the problem isn't that math is dead or data is broken. The problem is that rather than using data to arrive at a solution, pollsters have resorted to starting out with a solution and then solving for the data. Which is exactly what appears to have happened in Georgia. As the following chart points out, with just 9 days left until Election Day, pollsters were predicting a fairly easy win for Democratic candidate Jon Ossoff in Georgia's 6th district runoff. Shocking, we know. But, just over a week later, the Republican candidate ended up easily walking away with the win, and served up another embarrassment for pollsters in the process as actual results swung 8.6 points from predictions peddled to the public just a week earlier. So how does this keep happening? Well, it's not that surprising in light of the fact that Democrats literally wrote a playbook on how to rig polling data through oversamples. As we noted last October in a post entitled New Podesta Email Exposes Playbook for Rigging Polls Through Oversamples, it all apparently has a lot to do with oversampling various minority groups. The email even includes a handy, 37-page guide with the following poll rigging recommendations. In Arizona, oversampling of Hispanics and Native Americans is highly recommended. Research, micro-targeting and polling projects. Oversample Hispanics. Use Spanish language interviewing. Monolingual Spanish-speaking voters are among the lowest turnout Democratic targets. Oversample the Native American population. For Florida, the report recommends consistently monitoring samples to make sure they're not too old and has enough African American and Hispanic voters. Meanwhile, independent voters in Tampa and Orlando are apparently more Dem-friendly, so the report suggests filling up independent quotas in those cities first. Consistently monitor the sample to ensure it is not too old, and that it has enough African American and Hispanic voters to reflect the state. On independents, Tampa and Orlando are better persuasion targets than North or South Florida. Check your polls before concluding this. If there are budget questions or oversamples, make sure that Tampa and Orlando are included first. Of course, the intent of publishing these ridiculous polls is presumably to chill the Republican vote. After all, why go through the hassle of long lines at a polling station if your candidate has no shot at winning? That said, the strategy only worked before the media and pollsters lost all credibility. So, why bother keeping up the charade? As we mentioned above, it's just getting embarrassing at this point.
That's the news. Join us here every day. Be sure to subscribe and click the bell. See you next time.
This is TBNN.